No matter what, people will commit to misunderstanding you. What's most important is your commitment to understanding yourself. Hello, you guys. My name's Nkirka Madani, known as NK, and welcome back to Misunderstood. Letting go will make you a happier person. Today, we are essentially talking about the art of letting go, really working through specific situations on how you can actually let go of things that are stressing you out, making you feel fearful, or just expectations as a whole. This is a topic that means a lot to me specifically because I myself, as a very emotional girly, I can get very stuck in feeling upset, frustrated, fearful, sad, mad, all the above from any type of situation where I feel let down. And I realized over the past few years, when I really practiced letting go of things that bothered me, things that pissed me off, I am, in fact, a happier person. So I really wanted to bring that to the episode today. But before we get started, take some time right now to rate this show, Misunderstood, 5 stars. You guys already know we love the podcast. We want to continue weekly episodes, and every single rating means so much, which is why I say it at the top of every single podcast episode. So if you have not already, please leave a 5-star rating on Apple and Spotify. Also on Apple, write a review that helps other people learn more about this show. Thank you so much. All right. So I really wanted to center this episode on 3 main components of letting go. And then at the end, we're going to talk about my tried and true on how I really like practicing the art of letting go. So first off, let's talk about letting go of fear. Fear is a very powerful emotion. Fear is something that I find myself exhibiting a lot internally, and I don't really share that with a lot of people. And it's really because a lot of people see me as someone who has it all together and someone who is rarely shaken. Well, I'm here to say that's not the case. I just mask it very well, and I don't really allow myself to show that publicly. But if you're on my podcast, which is of course my safest space, this is where I feel it's really important to dive into this emotion specifically and really detail it for you guys so that you guys really understand where I'm coming from. And hopefully this will help anybody who's also feeling this way navigate it as well. So the first example I want to share about letting go of fear is in relation to any bodily issue you may have. I myself have gone through a few bodily scares over the last few years, but I really have to say just adulthood in general, where I see something that looks weird or I feel something weird in my body. And honestly, my panic levels in my heart and soul skyrocket. I feel like something's wrong or I'm sick, terminally sick, which is not the case. I'm a healthy 31-year-old, happy to report. But whenever these sudden instances happen, I start to panic. That's not the first default I should take. I should take a step back and look at it a lot more logically. But of course, as an emotional girly, you think of the worst because that's just how we are wired. So 2 weeks ago now, I started to see some discoloration on my fingernails. I've mentioned this before on past episodes, but I intentionally keep my fingernails unpainted. Is that the word? Bare, natural. I just don't use nail polish anymore and I maintain them at home. I cut them regularly, buff them, all that stuff. But I have committed to that ever since September of 2025. So we are coming up on a year of having my nails all natural. Recently, in the last 2 weeks, started to see some weird discoloration on my nails that did not look normal to me. So naturally, I started panicking and the fear really started to set in. So I called my dermatologist. I set an appointment for yesterday, actually. Kid you not, I waited almost an hour to get seen, even though I had an appointment. But the appointment lasted all but 5 minutes. The dermatologist came in, looked at my nails. He took a photo. He went back into his office, did some scans or whatever they do back there. And he came back and said, "You are completely fine. What you're seeing is a pigment change under your actual nail plate. This actually happens from past acrylic usage," which I actually used to do acrylics on my nails nonstop for probably 4 or 5 years. He was saying that even though you have stopped doing your nails entirely for almost a year, there is residual damage that was done in the past that is now showing up, but this is not something to be worried about. This is a color change that will actually start to grow out once your nails grow out, but a full nail grow out takes about a year. So this is something you can either paint over, which is completely fine, but he definitely urged to just not use acrylic anymore, which I haven't done acrylic in so long. Acrylics, hate to say it, they aren't very good for your nails. Just a PSA if you didn't know that. So I just thought it was a little funny because all of that fear that I was holding in myself for weeks was dispelled within 5 minutes from a professional who, of course, this is their whole job to know what to do in these situations. So that really helped me feel a lot more comfortable. And yes, seeking help, seeking the resources at my disposal, i.e., going to the doctor and not, I repeat, not Googling my symptoms because y'all, I Googled my symptoms and of course it's going to show the worst case scenario, which is what fully took my panic to a next level. So highly recommend to not Google your symptoms and rather just go seek professional help pretty much immediately so that you can dispel any fear that you may have related to anything health related. The next example for letting go of fear I wanted to discuss is the fear of people walking away. For this one specifically, I really wanted to focus on friendships. And once again, after all the episodes I've done on this podcast and all the episodes specifically regarding friendships, I realized that y'all really like the friendship related episodes. Those are the highest viewed, listened to, streamed. Those are the highest streamed episodes on Misunderstood. So consciously, I'm going to make sure that I'm talking more about that as time goes on. But I really wanted to take a second and talk about the fear of people walking away. I have that fear very deep inside of me because I've had a long history of people walking away from a friendship with me based on something that could have been handled a lot more maturely or a misunderstanding that led to them walking away. It's a very hurtful feeling, of course, to have somebody who you think is a friend end up saying, no, peace out. I don't want to continue a friendship with you. Those are things that are really hurtful. And the fear really comes from the fear of being alone, the fear of being lonely. When we really dive in, we realize that when people walk away, that will make us feel as if we are not good enough for people to stay. There has been so many psychological shifts I've had to make in my adulthood to realize that there are some people who are supposed to only be there for a season. There's some people who are only supposed to be there situationally. A lot of people in your life that you come across are not even supposed to go the distance with you. And as somebody who's highly emotional and also somebody who loves to bring people together and to be around people, it's very hard to settle with that. But that is the reality of life. People in your life will walk away. And the most important part of the story is to remember that there will be people who stay. And there will be people who rally behind you and ride for you, regardless of who leaves. I've talked about quantity over quality in friendships a ton on the episodes, but it really comes down to that. It matters that you have core people who you can lean on, even if it's people you can count on one hand, even if it's only one or two people. That is way more valuable than a room full of people who don't really know you and who don't even care about you, about your well-being. And as an adult, it's been a very important lesson that I've had to face, and it has made me stronger. And even though there is that fear of people walking away still, and there's this fear of pouring into people who I think are compatible with me and they might not feel the same way, and that's revealed later. That is such a hard feeling, but I just have to remind myself and of course remind you guys that if they were meant to stay, they would be there. There's no point of trying to chase people to stay because at the end of the day, if they're going to go, they're going to go. Good riddance if they go. But there will be people who will be in your corner, and you have to be willing to detach yourself from who left to pour into and focus on the people who stay. The next item in letting go I wanted to talk about is letting go of stress. As adults, stress is inevitable. I am stressed out, honestly, all the time, which sucks. It sucks to say, but it's the truth. I find myself pretty stressed out most days. And again, this is an emotion that I don't actively share on any platforms. Because actually, I find that a lot of people will take that and run with it a little negatively, unfortunately, when it comes to being a Black woman. Do I want to dive into that fully right now? Not really. But it is something that I'm very conscious of with how I share, because a lot of people will take that in a really strange parasocial way. But here on the podcast, I know that I can share my heart and share what I'm going through, and people just take it at face value and also find comfort in it rather than spin it and make it a weird thing. And honestly, if you know, you know. I have to say that because I know my truth and I know how I've been made to feel in the past. If you don't understand that, that is completely okay. But that is a if you know, you know situation. But moving on, letting go of stress. Stress can, of course, come about in so many ways. I find that most of my stress is work related, to be honest. Most of my stress is the sum of the things I do with work, the projects I put myself in, and the clients I deal with on a day to day. So the first story I want to talk about is the stress of not getting certain work opportunities. I have talked to you guys a little bit in the past about certain things that have fallen through, which is stressful and it's tough. And then when I drill back or drill down, when I drill down into why I have the stress is coming from money. Of course, I'm doing these work opportunities to earn a living, to get income. So when a work opportunity does not pan out as it was scheduled, or I get ghosted by a client, or things don't actually come into fruition for a work opportunity, that gives me so much stress. It gives me stress from a money perspective because, of course, that amount of money that I was supposed to get would be toward my rent and toward my living in New York City and savings and all the other things that I budget for. But it also makes me stressed out about my worth in terms of my job. If I get passed up, my brain defaults to, okay, well, maybe I'm not worthy enough for the client to pick me to see this through. Maybe I'm not worthy enough to be chosen to actually get this done. That stress has eaten me up alive. It has also caused a lot of tears. It's caused a lot of sleepless nights over the years. I've been doing this for 6 years. If you are new here, I have been working for myself, freelance for 6 years. I have learned so much in the 6 years, the ups and the downs and everything in between. There's so many times where I've wanted to throw my hands up and quit. I didn't. I'm thankful that I didn't, because I think about the reverse or the opposite of my situation. If I go back to the life I had before I started this, I just wasn't happy. And of course, 6 years later, there are other avenues. It's not just accounting or nothing. If you're new here, I used to work in public accounting, but now I think there's a reason why I'm still here. There's a reason why I'm still standing. There's a reason why after 6 years, I am still able to push through, get it done, and hit new work milestones. And I have to think about the good instead of ruminating on the bad. It's really hard for me when I'm stressed out to think about all the positive things I've done, but this is really important. It's important to remember that stress, like everything we experience, is temporary. And I really want to focus on the good. Specifically, I really wanted to share the story of the past week. Actually, I guess it's now been 2 weeks. I got a very, very, very big work opportunity email. This is one of the highest I would have ever been paid for a single project. I read through the email, I read through the brief, I read through everything, and I realized that what they were asking of me was really, really, really big too. All right. This was no small feat. The money was high for me in terms of what I've done in the past. However, the ask was not fully matching up with what they were willing to pay me. I responded with a counteroffer and I drilled down why I believe I should be paid this much more. And it was almost double what they requested, but I had the stats to back it up. I had the reasoning to back it up. Everything made sense. At this point, it feels like they ghosted me. There have been past situations with brands that table something and come back to me a month later and I get to do the opportunity. This is actually to what happened with hotels.com. They reached out to me and I pushed back on my rates. They were silent for about a month. Then they came back and we ended up doing the partnership in early June. But this other situation that has been brewing really made me sad because it made me feel as though me standing up for myself and me knowing my worth and advocating for that makes people not want to work with me. I have to remember that I know that I'm not just going to sign away my rights because essentially, if you guys saw the contract, if you guys saw what was being asked of me, truly, there was so much to it that made it honestly not even worth the money that they were going to pay me. Even though it was the highest amount of money that I have ever gotten paid, that's not the point. The point is remembering how far I've come in this industry and remembering how far I have fought to earn what I earn. It's not just signing a check and moving on. I want to maintain my integrity. I want to maintain my boundaries and I want to maintain my level of self respect. If anyone is in that position as well, whether it be freelancing or even at work when you're negotiating your next salary increase, it can apply to anything. Knowing that you are worth what you're asking for and not backing down. I'm happy I didn't back down because part of me got stressed out when they didn't say anything for 3 days. And my gut was saying, maybe I should pull my counteroffer. But if I did that, I would have been going back on myself. So I decided to just let it go. If they reach back out to me, great. But I know that by me foregoing that opportunity, there will be other things in the pipeline. I believe it. I believe it in my heart because I know that I have so much value in this space as a Black woman, very willing to put herself out there, very willing to speak her mind. There will be so many more doors that will open for me. So the money stress, of course, it's there, but there are so many other ways that I earn income. There's so many ways that I am able to do what I do to the point of being able to do this for 6 years. Diversifying my income is the only way I've been able to do that. And that's what I would urge everyone else to do as well. And the second item for stress I wanted to quickly touch on is being sick. Being sick is very normal. Every single human body gets sick at some point. I hate being sick. Being sick makes me feel as though I failed within myself. But of course, that is not true. Like I mentioned, everyone gets sick at some point, whether it is being a little dehydrated or running yourself a little too thin or not getting enough sleep, you will get sick. And being sick is not a measure of failure. There is so many times where I feel that way because I think about all the things I can't do when I am sick. The past few days, I have felt really run down. I'm trying so hard to avoid getting full blown sick at this point of me filming this. My throat is definitely hurting right now and my nose is congested. And those are the first signs of sickness, as we know, but I am trying my best to make sure that I stay healthy. Even if I do get sick, hopefully it's not for a full blown week plus. We're hoping for a few days and then we're just going to keep it pushing. But being sick is, of course, a stressor. Not being able to live out the things that you want to do, not being able to exert yourself to the level that you know you can, you have to dial back and you have to rest. But then we think about the reverse of it. Letting go of the stress of being sick allows us to lean into rest. Rest is how we recharge as humans. Rest is how we are able to do everything that we do. And I always like to remember that because every time that I do get to rest, fully lay horizontal and binge watch TV and bed rot for a day, that is way more valuable to me because then I can really power up again and be able to be my bubbly, happy, vivacious self. But I can't do that if I run myself so thin by stretching myself 100 ways and not letting myself recharge. So if anybody is like me and gets very stressed out about being sick and thinks that by being sick, you are going to be missing out on things, well, hey, you might be missing out on things, but that's okay. The fear of missing out also comes into play when you're sick, of course. And I am no stranger to that feeling, but rest is so much more valuable than being stressed out about being sick. Rest is so much more valuable to the betterment of you and to making sure that you're able to live on and do the things that you want to do in the future. And the third item of letting go I wanted to talk about in this episode is letting go of expectations. This one I can talk about for days because I realize as an emotional girly, I put so much weight on everyone in my life to show up in a certain way and to be there in a certain way. But also, not just people, having events pan out exactly like I want it to be, or having opportunities go exactly to plan. That is how I've always been. We can talk about the deeper meaning of expectations. This is coming from a fear of abandonment. It's coming from a fear of people and events and things letting us down. And this one's hard, but I did say in a recent episode that people are going to do whatever they want. We can't control human behavior. And then also with events and things that don't pan out super last minute, a lot of things happen very haphazardly. A lot of them are out of our control and out of people's control. So the expectation to want things to go exactly to a T isn't very feasible. It just isn't. And I have worked so hard to become more malleable and more flexible to change and adapt better. I have had a very long stint of time where I would get so upset and so mad and so angry that something didn't go right, or a friend canceling last minute. I would get so upset and so mad. But I took a step back and I realized that being angry is not helping. Sulking is not helping. If I want to feel better, I need to be able to pivot faster. The first story I want to talk about when it comes to expectations is the CoverGirl studio. So as you guys can see, if you're watching on video, I am in the same building I've been in for the last 3 episodes. Actually, today I was supposed to be in the CoverGirl studio, but the team canceled pretty last minute, but it was because of something that we all cannot control, which is the weather. The weather right now in New York City is acting really crazy. There's been a lot of floods. Last week, we had the smoke from the wildfires. We had a heat wave 2 weeks ago. The weather has been so wonky and so weird. But today, we have a storm warning and a flash flood warning. So because of that, they canceled late last night. I was upset, but I took it on the chin. I responded, hey, no worries. We rescheduled a date and we're moving on. And I realized my initial sadness from getting canceled on, specifically for the studio, is because I haven't been in the studio in now about 2 months. And actually, each of my scheduled dates for June and July got moved because of the weather, which is quite annoying. But I have to remember that there are things that are out of my control. And yes, I had an expectation today. I was expecting to be in the CoverGirl studio and to be in my element, to record where I feel super comfortable, to have that space that really inspires my creativity. I had that expectation, of course, but I have to let go of that expectation and keep it moving, realizing that there's other resources at my disposal, i.e. this building where I could come to and record and still produce a good episode for you guys. The next story I wanted to talk about is my knee brace. So if you're keeping up with my running journey on TikTok and on YouTube, I started training for the New York City Marathon a week ago at this point. I have this knee brace that was ordered by my surgeon. I got it through insurance. The knee brace is actually a really expensive knee brace, but insurance paid for it. That's not the point. The point is that the brace itself is not staying on when I'm running, which is the entire point of me getting the knee brace. So I have had a lot of really frustrating PT sessions where I'm putting on the knee brace, the PT is timing my run, and the knee brace is slipping down after a minute of running, which is not going to work in a true running scenario. So I have just felt really stuck. I had an expectation of this knee brace being my savior, for this knee brace to work so well that I wouldn't have any pain running and I would be able to really excel in my training block for the New York City Marathon. However, that is just not the case. That expectation got quickly ruined. So I realized that I needed to pivot and I needed to find new options to be able to still run but run safely. So I actually just went on Amazon and looked up so many knee braces. I was on Amazon for about an hour. That's probably the longest I've ever been on Amazon in one go. But I researched so many different knee braces based on what's happening in my knee. And I wanted to figure out what was going to work for me. So I settled on a knee brace that I ordered. I didn't know how it was going to work, of course, until I put it on my body and actually went into a running scenario. So I got it on Saturday. I did a long run with it on Sunday, and I'm happy to report that I ran my first 5 miles without stopping on Sunday with this new knee brace I got on Amazon. And it made me so proud that I was able to honestly take charge. I didn't wait for my surgeon. I didn't wait for the PT. And I want to be clear before anyone misunderstands me. I really don't need their sign off to get a new knee brace. As long as I have a knee brace on, that's all that matters. The most important thing is having a knee brace that actually works. I found one that works and I'm really happy about that. And this is a perfect lead in to the last story I want to talk about for expectations is the expectations of running in general. So like I just said, I ran 5 miles on Sunday and I felt really good about it. But in my head, I was knocking myself on my time. Saying it out loud, I honestly feel dumb for saying that because hello, this girl went through a knee surgery in February. The fact that I'm even running is amazing in and of itself, but I know myself and I have expectations given my past with running. I used to be able to run a 9-minute mile and I felt like such a badass, but that's not where I'm at right now. And that's okay. And letting go of the expectation of being a super fast runner needs to happen. I absolutely just need to let it go. My PT actually told me yesterday when I went into my session, he said, if you have the mindset of going into your marathon this fall, thinking that you are going to run at your optimal speed, I would say that is not very likely. But if you have a mindset of going into this marathon, doing your best, you might run, walk it, you'll probably be at a slower pace. That is absolutely feasible. And you will absolutely finish the New York City Marathon if you have that mindset. And that honestly shifted my perspective entirely because it reminded me that I don't have to be the best. I just have to get it done. I just have to cross the finish line. Every single person who crosses the finish line gets a medal. And yes, of course, I'm going to frame my medal when I get my medal. But I just have to remember that this journey is going to test me. It's going to test the hell out of me. It's going to be a really great way for me to learn about my limits, but also push myself as time goes. I can't be a rock star right up front because I'm doing something that I haven't done in a year. I have to give myself grace. I have to rest. I have to listen to my PT, listen to my surgeon, listen to my body, and understand that the expectations I had a year ago, of course, have to shift. I'm in a completely different scenario than I was exactly a year ago, and that's okay. The only thing that really matters is that I am still choosing myself. I'm still choosing to do this marathon, even under all the circumstances. And I'm still deciding to go after my dreams. I wanted to end the episode on how I effectively let go as an emotional girly. This is something I've been doing actually for a very long time, and I really believe it works well, is to recite mantras. And a mantra is essentially a saying, an affirmation, if you will. Mantras help you center yourself. It helps you chill out when the world feels chaotic, when situations feel chaotic. It is a grounding exercise. So what I want you guys to do is to think about a mantra, a saying, an affirmation that you really, really love and you really want to take forth with you whenever you do feel that stress, that fear, that bogged down expectation. I want you to think of an affirmation or a mantra that really connects with you because no affirmations and no mantras are alike. Everyone is inspired by something different. And this is where I would also refer you to Pinterest. I have so many affirmations, so many mantras that I love to use every single day. And I really do find most of them on Pinterest. You can type in affirmations for a specific specific eras of your life that you want to focus on. Health affirmations, love affirmations, confidence affirmations. If you want to keep it general, just type in affirmations. Pinterest will populate so many. I have an affirmation on every single planner that I've ever made through Papier. I just made my 2026-2027 planner through Papier. And like I said, you can customize the front of it and put whatever you want on it. But I have made it a tradition to have an affirmation / mantra on the cover of every single planner. This year's affirmation is, she designed a life she loved. I love to think about how I am the captain of this ship. I can turn it around anytime I want, can control what I do to create the life I want. A girl who's going to do big things cannot let small things get to her. I absolutely love that one. Honestly, you guys should steal that one as well. That one is something I say all the time. Whenever I get very stressed out, very annoyed about whatever's going on, I say, a girl who's going to do big things cannot let small things get to her. And it snaps me out of a negative spiral. It snaps me out of a sad state, because it's true. Everything that we experience, honestly, they're small in the grand scheme of life. As long as we're healthy and as long as we are safe, everything else is pretty small. So I like to think about that whenever I feel sad or stressed out. That one helps me out so much. And a really important part about your mantra and your affirmation is you have to say it out loud. You have to. Writing it down is important, but you have to say it out loud. Go into the mirror in your bathroom or in your apartment, wherever you are, you have to say it out loud. I think it's more effective when you look in the mirror and you're looking back at your reflection and you're saying it. It's helped me a lot. Try it. Let me know how that works for you. And that's all I have for you guys today. I really wanted to leave off with saying caring about things does not make you soft. It makes you feel alive. I actually heard that from the book I'm reading, which is called 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. I'm not that far into it, but I think it's a really good read so far. You guys got this. My highly emotional girlies, I see you because I am you. And letting go, I promise, will make you a way happier person. And with that, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Misunderstood. Remember to rate the show 5 stars on Apple and Spotify and follow wherever you're listening. Join our Geneva group chat. It is always linked in the description of every single podcast episode. Hang out with me on my other socials, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest at NK Madani. And I will talk to you guys in my next one.